"Hey, you've got quite the cheerful demeanor today," chuckled Mr. Murphy's longtime friends as he strolled out of the church following the Sunday service. "Any guesses, fellas? I am going home to tell my wife to get ready to send our eldest daughter Rebecca away." "Send Rebecca away?" "Yup, I just met an old friend whose son is seeking a bride. He joked about us going from just friends to relatives. I thought it was an amazing idea. I'm running late, pals. Got to get things ready for my girl's wedding." Mr. Murphy was chirpy and excited on his way home, dreaming about his daughter's marriage. But what did he see as soon as he entered the gate? Rebecca was sneaking out to the dumpster to dispose of something. He was about to find out that it was a pregnancy test kit, and the result would shock him even more. What is Rebecca doing at the dumpster? What is she hiding? Mr. Murphy wondered as he quietly crept behind the wall and watched his daughter toss something wrapped in tissue paper into the bin. After Rebecca returned inside, her dad walked to the dumpster and rummaged through it. "What is this thing?" he pondered as he lifted the pregnancy test kit wrapped in crumbled tissue. Mr. Murphy was deeply shocked as he recognized what it was. He stormed to his house, hoping he was wrong. "Rebecca, come here. What's this? What's going on?" Rebecca turned pale and speechless after seeing the pregnancy test in her dad's hand. "Dad, I wanted to tell you, I am sorry. It was an accident during my camp with my friends." "What the hell? Are you pregnant?" Rebecca's silence answered Mr. Murphy's question. His whole world crumbled under his feet, and he was startled beyond belief. "You are such a disgrace to the family. How could you do this to me? How will I face everyone? People will mock me at the church. What kind of a daughter have you raised?" They will laugh. Mr. Murphy furiously marched to Rebecca's room and returned moments later with her belongings. "Get out of my house. Don't ever come back. You don't exist for me." He hurled her suitcase and booted her out without thinking further. "Dad, please allow me to explain." Mr. Murphy slammed the door in Rebecca's face, shutting her out of his life forever. But where would poor Rebecca go? She knew nobody, and her family was her only support. Now, even they had abandoned her. Rebecca's pregnancy was the bitter outcome of a one-night stand with a stranger she met at the camp. They parted ways, assuming everything was done and dusted. Unfortunately, her pregnancy symbolized her mistake, which could not be undone because it was too late. Mr. Murphy ousted Rebecca on a cold night to fend for herself and the little life growing inside her. What would happen to this poor mom to be alone out in the cruel world? But it was the least of her father's concerns. Months passed, and 23-year-old Rebecca welcomed a beautiful baby boy. She lived in a homeless shelter for some time and made friends who referred her for a job in a paint factory. Rebecca shuttled between work and raising her son John. 12 years flew by, and she devoted her life to giving her son a promising future. They moved to a trailer, and their world seemed small and cozy, but not for long, as a storm was on its way. Rebecca's race against time to raise her son and give him a happy life had cost her her health. Due to exposure to harsh chemicals in the paint factory, Rebecca's liver slowly started to fail. She did not sense what was happening inside her body until she fell unconscious on the factory premises while working a second shift one day. 911. What's your emergency? A colleague has fallen unconscious. She's not waking up, even after we splash water on her face, Rebecca's colleague replied. Moments later, an ambulance arrived and hurried Rebecca to the hospital. The doctors examined her and found that her liver had been severely damaged by prolonged chemical exposure. Her last resort was to get a donation immediately. "I know her. She's Mr. Murphy's daughter. I met them in the church together several years ago. I'll inform him immediately," one of the doctors revealed after recognizing Rebecca. Moments later, at Mr. Murphy's house, "Jesus Christ, doctor, is my daughter fine? I'm on my way. Please save her," Mr. Murphy cried when the doctor informed him about Rebecca's prognosis. He raced to the hospital, knowing little he would be the one to give his beloved daughter a second chance in life. Mr. Murphy arrived at the hospital, his heart racing to see his daughter. He couldn't immediately recognize 12-year-old John crying beside her bed, asking God to save his mother. "Is this my daughter's son, my grandson?" But John couldn't identify Mr. Murphy as his grandfather. Rebecca had never told him anything about her past or her family. As Mr. Murphy walked toward John to comfort him, the doctor's voice broke the silence in the ward and interrupted him. "Mr. Murphy, Rebecca needs a liver transplant urgently. You could be a perfect match as her father, the doctor informed him, triggering overwhelming guilt in Mr. Murphy, who was determined to do whatever it took to save his daughter's life. "I'll do anything to save my daughter, doctor. What's the next step?" he replied tearfully. "Mr. Murphy, these are the tests you need to undergo before we proceed with the procedure. Please follow me." The test results were positive, confirming Mr. Murphy's suitability as a healthy organ donor. The operation commenced, lasting 28 hours, and eventually, Rebecca regained consciousness. The doctors congratulated her, proclaiming, "Miss Rebecca, he saved your life." Curiosity surged within Rebecca as she turned to the side and saw her father lying on the nearby bed. She couldn't believe her eyes and called out to him, tears streaming down her face as she melted into a state of overwhelming emotion. "Dad?" she whispered, tears gushing from her eyes. "Dad? Daddy?" Mr. Murphy awoke, turning to find his daughter alive and liberated from the clutches of death. Their tear-filled gaze conveyed 12 years of anguish. "I'm sorry, my dear. Please forgive me for failing you. And you've raised such an amazing son," he whispered as Rebecca smiled through tears. "Mom, who is he?" John asked with curiosity. "He's your grandpa. Please hug him for me, dear." John thanked the heavens for saving his mother and rushed to his grandpa. "Where have you been, Grandpa?" he cried. Mr. Murphy couldn't answer right away, trusting time to heal all wounds and grateful for the chance to make amends. Months passed, and Rebecca slowly recovered. She returned to her parents' home and left her job. Mr. Murphy and Rebecca forgave one another, leaving the past behind. Instead, they worked tirelessly to create a brighter and happier life.